here, Eva's here,
Hi, guys.
Callie's here. All right, hold on one second.
Mike, Eva, Callie, did you know it was Ron's birthday? I mean, I feel really bad about this. And now he just left me unattended in here by myself.
Yeah, we who knows what would happen if we leave Jamie in charge.
Yeah.
It's Ron's birthday! Ron Eastwood's birthday! I'm blaming all of them for the fact that I didn't know this until after the show today. I'm blaming Mike. Mike Gonzalez, where were you, bro?
Okay, so I think this should be where we go, though, for a minute. If we're just, because it's like that. If you have something in your teeth, a real friend tells you, right? If your zipper's down, a real friend tells you. Why did you not come in and say, Ron, hey, you guys are a little bit jerks. We're an hour in. We're 2 hours in.
And you haven't mentioned the day I came into the world.
I mean, I'm not putting the pressure on you, but
I was busy between running a show and saying thank you to all the real friends who knew it was my birthday.
Oh, no.
I just had
Ron.
things to do.
I'm writing this down
Plus,
here.
that's so egotistical to come
No,
in and
it's
say,
not. You
hey
deserve
guys,
to be on
you
it.
know, it's my birthday.
But I did this once before. I did this. I had a teen who was really, really important to me, and even she still is. And it was just her birthday a week ago, and I had her babysit for me. And then I took her out for coffee after she babysat for me, and my mom calls me. God bless Penny Seaman, because my mom puts every birthday on her Outlook calendar. Mm-hmm. Even if you've passed away, she sends you a card to say, I know it's so-and-so's birthday. Like, she knows your anniversary, everything. Anyway, she says, you do know it's Sarah's birthday. And I'm like, but it's like 4 p.m, and I've been with her since 8 o'clock this morning. And it was awful. And so this year I threw Sarah a surprise birthday party because I'm still feeling the after effects of so Ron, this is going on my Outlook calendar.
It's going on mine too, but you know, in honor of Ron's birthday, one of the presents you had for him, you gave him yesterday. You told him about a friend of yours that loves Ron Eastwood, listening to Ron.
Yes.
And they asked you a question about Ron.
I did. It's my dad.
Okay.
Remember I told you yesterday?
Yeah. I didn't realize it was your dad.
It's my dad. And so after the last time I had filled in when Brian was out, he was like, so that Ron, he's a real young guy, right? And I was like, well, and I was trying to be nice, but I was like, not exactly, Dad. Like,
He was young once.
He's like, no, he sounds really young and hip. Like, he's cool. And I was like, I mean, maybe to you. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. You are young and hip and cool. I'm so sorry we didn't know it was your birthday.
I'm putting a...
Look, he's actually doing it
I'm
right
doing
now.
it right now. I'm going to give myself a warning, 2 warnings. I'm going to give myself 2 days before and on the day of the event. Oh boy. Okay, this will never be forgotten again. Ron Eastwood.
Woo!
Yay, Ron Eastwood. Happy birthday, Ron Eastwood.
59 today.
Wow. I thought it was 47.
Right.
So
Young and hip.
Young and hip.
that was a tough moment there to kind of come up with the right number.
Yeah.
I'm going to be solo that's ridiculous.
I mean, not like you walked into a high school and got confused for a student. Kind
Right.
of obviously weird.
Whatever would you be meaning by
That wouldn't
that?
happen.
Whatever would you be meaning by that? By the way, thanks to Scranton Road Promotional Marketing for sponsoring the shirt Ron's wearing for his birthday.
They remembered.
They're a division of Scranton Road Ministries, and they do the promotional products that you can see here. They've sponsored Overtime, so why wouldn't you use them for your products that you're getting for your company, your church, or whatever? Seriously.
Invest in the city.
That's what they
Do it.
That's what you do when you work with them. So ScrantonRoadPromo.org, ScrantonRoadMinistries.org. Before we get to the shame topic, too, I have to mention, since Jamie brought it up,
Oh no.
I'm going to have to tell you what happened to me yesterday. Speaking of thinking you're young.
Gag.
Young and
Here
hip.
You
we
have to
go
go,
again.
I understand. You,
Okay.
you don't have to stay. Right?
Bye.
He's doing work.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to hear the story again.
Yeah, that's it. He hears all my stories like all the time. So yesterday, my oldest daughter, to school because they had to get their schedules and pay school fees and take their pictures. This is a long line, 45 minutes outside, social distancing, waiting to get in the building with a mask on. And we get in the building, so it's just not many people. And they did a good job organizing it. So it's like an assembly line. You're going through the building, doing what you need to do. Get in, take our temperatures. I let my daughter go first because, great dad here. I mean, obviously, you let ladies first, kids first, women and children. That's what you do first. So I'm behind her. And there's a lady right in front of us that's going to direct us to the next thing. And she looks at my daughter and she goes, "And what grade are you in?" And my daughter's in 10th grade. And she looks at me and goes, "And what grade are you in?" And I was like, she couldn't see because of my mask. I was like, "I'm not in a grade. I'm her dad." And the lady was legitimately embarrassed. It wasn't just being funny. It wasn't a joke. She was like, oh, sorry about that. And then we walk in to get the pictures taken. Picture lady walks up to Grace and me together. And she says, "Okay, we got you. So are we both having our pictures taken today?" And my daughter just looked at me in horror that this couldn't
Poor
happen.
Grace.
2 people, well-adjusted adults in Northeast Ohio, thought that I was a high school student. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's look at any reactions to that. Here we go.
There are none.
Everyone's reacting to Ron's birthday.
Callie says you need to get Ron a cake. Janelle's back. Maybe I should text her so she's the favorite.
Callie, why don't you get him a cake and bring it here? I mean, what are you doing? I'm working right now.
And you see there are no responses to your... Although I was just thinking, I'm sorry, Grace, for what I'm about to say. You need to get a t-shirt that says, "I'm her dad," with the arrow
Oh my
pointing.
gosh, yes.
And just, that's what you have to wear when you go
Every
to
time.
school events, anything.
Every time you walk in the front door of the school, I'm like, I look at the kids, I go, "Do you think, are they going to think I'm a student? Or do I need to get a pass or something?" Yeah. Every time, they're just like, "Oh, Dad." Haha.
Oh my gosh. Look, still no reactions.
There we go. There's one. That used to happen to me and my daughter. See? All the time. Eva, you know what's going on. And Susan just went right past it to happy birthday.
Happy
Ron.
birthday, Ron. Like, don't even
Wow.
entertain it.
I get
Way
it.
to go, people.
Maybe you feel intimidated or disappointed that you don't look as young as me. You guys, I'm in my 40s. I know, it's hard to believe. It's all right. I should ask you to sit down first before I said that. Ignore it.
my
That's
goodness.
fine. Let's talk about shame. Jamie's like, "Wow, Brian, get on with it." So there's a really popular author out there who talks a lot about shame.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, her TED Talk on listening to shame has 14 million views, so it's a big deal. And in her mind, shame are those recordings we play in our head of a voice saying, "You're never going to be good enough," or "Who do you think you are? Are you going to do this? Who do you think you are?" So, and it's Brene Brown. And you've read her stuff. She's a good writer.
I've only read one book. I don't want to...
You keep backing up because I keep exaggerating
Well,
it.
yeah, because you're saying, and I am so not an expert, although I wish I was. Like, what I have read, the things I have listened to, I think are great. They have caused me to reflect on, how I allow shame to kind of shape what I do, and even, what I want to portray to other people. So I read the book. I thought it was just me, but it isn't. And it was really good. And it did take me 2 read-throughs. But I think this is an interesting article. And I read the book a long time ago, and Brian just threw this article at me this morning. So I didn't do the homework that I normally would. But I do remember questioning, and I see that Mike is already on here talking about shame and guilt.
Kim wants to say that I may have many more years of youthful looks. So,
Oh my gosh.
sorry. But anyway, Mike is saying what now about shame?
Mike is saying he disagrees that shame is a lie. Shame is when you feel you've disappointed someone by your sin. Guilt is what you feel after you've sinned. And so, yeah, I looked it up, Mike, because I'm a definition person. And so here's what I read. Because then somebody else had texted in and talking about the word conviction too, and how those are not all interchangeable necessarily. I think we use them interchangeably, and maybe we shouldn't. So guilt is usually understood to involve negative feelings about an act that we've actually done. Shame, on the other hand, involves negative feelings about oneself, and maybe that's things that people have portrayed about you, but it's not necessarily based on truth. And so for that reason, I would agree with Brene. Like, shame is not there's no truth in it. But if we're talking about it as more like guilt or I'm feeling convicted about something that I've done wrong, right? Because we all have that. There's a real role for that in the Christian life to say, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I need to go to that person. I need to go to the Lord. I can't do that again. But if shame really is that, and I think in light of what Brene is saying, is it's not really attributed to any truth in our life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really helpful distinction. I'm glad that you found that, because the author of this piece in Christianity Today says something similar, although not that clearly. I like the way you said that, Jamie. She says the desire to eliminate shame from our everyday experience seems reasonable, but to do so cripples our capacity to be moral people. Moral emotions tightly enmeshed together. They don't exist piecemeal. Therefore, as Krista Thompson writes, we cannot get rid of an emotion such as shame without disfiguring the rest. Like, as in, emotions all rely upon each other. And then later she goes on to say that we have to make a distinction between worldly and godly shame. I like your distinction better.
I think it's one and the same. It sounds a little different, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I think the meaning she has in this piece is the same, but I think guilt and shame is the better way to look at it.
Right.
Because as Christians, we're sinners. We believe we're sinners. We ought to feel guilty when we sin.
Right. We should.
That's what causes repentance and restoration. But you don't need to sit there and say, I'm so dumb, I'm so ugly, I'm terrible, I'm a terrible father, I'm a terrible mother, I'm a terrible... Those are the kinds of shame that I think are really destructive to our self-esteem.
Right. And I think that's really important that we distinguish those two things. And I think that's also what Mike is saying too. We're just all saying it a little bit differently. Guilt is necessary to the Christian walk because we want to continue to grow and change habits. Whereas shame cripples us and keeps us stuck in that spot. And, you know, and that really is the premise of all Brene Brown's work, at least that I understand, is that we can't just stay stuck in, oh my gosh, like this is what the world thinks of me, you know.
But that's probably the trick, though, when... Like, I think it's good to read ideas from people. I don't think I have to only read Christian products or listen to Christian music. We can glean wisdom from psychologists and physicians and such. And in this case, I think she's perpetrating a really good point. We just have to be careful with it. Because I think people will jump on this train. And you said women in particular love Brene Brown's work?
Yeah. Because she's all about... I mean, just like I keep saying this, but it's just like the Renew Conference, what it's about, that voice that can sneak in and tell us we're not good enough or you know, we're not worthy, and that's not godly. And that's what this author is saying. She's saying worldly shame versus godly shame. I would say shame is shame, not attributed to actual truth. Godly, yeah, and then guilt is godly shame. And so I love this last part. It says worldly shame. So I'm going to just say shame destroys, but guilt restores, right? Godly shame or guilt shows us we've grieved the Holy Spirit, but it reassures us of God's grace. And that we need.
Yeah, really good. Really good. Theola adds to that, and this is a great point, Theola, thank you. The antonym of shame is pride. So is there a happy medium? And I think that points out, Theola, thank you for that, that's the consequence of taking this idea to its extreme, right? Is that the danger of telling people, get rid of your shame, is you turn them into a prideful person. And that's also a sin and a problem.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that tends to much
these.
more be my sin bent too, Theola. So thank you for, while I can totally say, oh yes, this really... shame is a real issue for women, and it can be for me in certain contexts, but I can really think I'm something, and I really, God has to continue to remind me that. So I like thinking that as both ends of the spectrum. I don't want to be here, but I don't want to be here either. So I gotta balance that out. The Lord's got to balance that out in me, and believe me, Theola, He continues to do that.
Well, and you know what? I think we all struggle with both. I think perhaps we all swing one way or the other. But I don't know that I've ever met someone that isn't struggling with either pride or shame in those extremes. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that. Let's see. Anything else you want to add from the article, or you feel like that pretty much encapsulates it? I like shame versus guilt versus godly and worldly shame.
Yeah.
Because I think it separates it even further.
Well, yeah, I'm agreeing with myself. I think I was pretty great there, but not so great that I'm going to have pride in it.
Mike said, isn't shame what a child feels when they know they haven't pleased mom or dad by some sin? A hug after that happens heals their self-image and love is communicated. So-
I think it is, Mike, when we take it there. I think guilt we can associate those things together. And I found myself doing this. I can't believe I'm going to admit this out loud
Oh,
on
good,
Facebook
good.
Live.
Listen carefully.
But you know how you say you pick up, and I don't remember my mom ever saying this to me, but I've obviously heard it somewhere. But I actually said to my kid the other day, this wasn't that long ago, you should be ashamed. And then I was like, it was like word vomit that I was like, I can't believe I just said that. I actually did stop in that moment and say, I don't know why I said that. That is not what I believe. You should feel bad about what you just did. It was because it was pretty bad, if I'm recalling correctly. But I was like, I don't want to project that onto my kid. And so I think I don't think it's the same, Mike, because I think guilt is what we should feel. And sometimes we have to teach our kids, hey, you should feel guilty for that. That wasn't cool that you hit your brother over the head with the golf club.
Yep.
Right? But he doesn't need to carry that shame with him forever, right? Like you're a bad person. No, that act wasn't great. You should feel guilty about that. Let's talk about why that was wrong. But shame means you're carrying that, and then it's going to attach itself. You should be ashamed in every part of your life. We're giving it a root in that one action, I guess.
Yeah, Mike is saying that he wants to separate it from guilt in that they feel guilty because of what they did, shame from how they hurt someone else by their sin. I know where you're going with that, Mike, and I think it makes some logical sense, where I wouldn't be in a position to go, you're wrong on that. I guess I just prefer the way that Jamie is illustrating this, because
Yeah.
I think you could ultimately just, the way you're describing it, use shame and guilt interchangeably, like synonyms almost. And I guess we got to be careful. I mean, we don't want to get rid of shame by any means,
No.
but you do want your child to feel that they've done the wrong thing and that disappoints God, and we're supposed to be representatives of God, and so they've disappointed us, and that guilt ought to lead towards their action of repentance. And I would just say it's staying in that guilt zone.
Right.
Shame is, to me, I did this, I always do this, I'm no good. Mm-hmm. That's shame.
Right.
Guilt is, I did this, it was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah?
Again, it's attached to the action. So guilty for this thing, not something that I've associated with myself and will carry with me forever. It's not based in an action or an actual truth even.
Right.
You know? It's kind of like I've decided that I'm a terrible, bad person because I'm guilty so many times. Or I don't know.
Mike is like, hello, anyone here? I think they're just listening, Mike, because you're asking such good questions. And
I was going to say, yeah.
So, with that in mind, by the way, women listening and men, for the women in your lives, this is why you need to get them signed up for the Renew Conference before it's too late. The webinar is a week from Saturday. It's 1 p.m. It lasts like an hour, hour and a half. Crystal Evans Hurst and Jannelle, you can see all the signage and stuff, yes. And it's only $10, and there's less than 100 seats left. And this thing will deal with those shame phrases you say to yourself that Jannelle's told herself, that Crystal Evans Hurst, our guest, will talk about. To get more information and get registered, I'd recommend Renew to 440-546-2255. Text Renew to 440-546-2255. And special thanks again to Scranton Road Promotional Marketing for the shirts and overtime today. Again, ScrantonRoadMinistries.org or ScrantonRoadPromo.org. And I think that just about does it. Oh, here we go. Carlton's here. He's like, I'm here, Mike.
Oh, what's Danella say?
Danella says, so true, Jamie. I try to do the same. My mom did say that to me often, so I don't repeat it because I unfortunately understand how deeply it pierced my heart. Wow.
Yeah.
And those are things we do as parents that we don't know how it makes them feel, but kids carry stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be like, I hate to do this because it's such a Debbie Downer thing, but you're going to win on that one. And there's going to be something else you say that your kids are like, I'm never saying that to my kids.
I know. I hate that feeling. But I know that it's so true. And there's a million things I do a day that I'm sure they say that about.
So, yeah, we got to run, guys. So glad you've been with us today. God bless you. Special thanks to Mike for generating such great conversation. Keep it going here, but we got to run. Thanks again to